Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Really excited to have my friend Xander Cruz here today. We're going to be talking about, these guys are rehabbing over 200 houses a year, and we're going to talk about rehabbing at scale. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Xander, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. So I'm really excited to talk about this. You guys are beasts in terms of rehabbing. I've primarily been more of a rehabber than a wholesaler, I'll say, over the years, but never to your scale. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned here, and I'm excited to kind of share that with everybody today.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So maybe before we jump in, just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you found your way into real estate investing.
Sure. The long story short is I randomly ended up in real estate when I graduated from college in 2011. I got hired as a broker's assistant, so in an admin position, which was really not a natural fit for me at all. But I fought through it. I got grounded, and I fell in love with the business. 2 or 3 years later, that same broker introduced me to my now business partner, Craig. And when we first met, we were not business partners by any means. At that point, I think I was 24 years old. So we started working together. Craig already had an existing flipping business in Pennsylvania, and we'll start creating the same business in Maryland. So that's how our relationship started. Immediately, I fell in love with the investment side of the business far more than anything I had seen before. Needless to say, I was hooked. So Craig and I were flipping houses together. At that time, it was him, myself, and one project manager who would oversee rehabs. Now today, we're a company of approximately 31 people. And as you mentioned, we'll do 200 rehabs this year. We cover the Baltimore metro area. I'm a partner of Craig's, and that's the long story short. So we've never left Baltimore. I left for college, came back. Pretty grounded here at this point. Actually just bought a house 2 weeks ago, and we're moving in this weekend into our forever home. So,
okay.
Nice. That's the long story short.
Awesome. And you guys are doing around 240, 250 deals this year is kind of your plan, mostly rehabbing, which is, and I know just because I know the Baltimore market, I mean, there's some in it, it's an older town, right? So there's some massive rehabs. These aren't necessarily paint and carpet type rehabs. You guys are doing some big rehabs, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So on our, we do 2 different kinds of rehabs. One is turnkey, and then one is your traditional fix and flip. Specific to turnkey, these are brick row homes built anywhere between 1900 and 1960, and they need everything. Most of them are full gut. Our average rehab cost now is over $90,000 per house, and these are about 1,200 square foot townhomes. And sometimes we get into heavy duty, we'll call them shells, where basically you strip them down to the walls and rebuild them back. Yeah. And we'll spend $120,000, $130,000 on those easily. Yeah. And then fix and flip, we've done a lot over the years. Have done as expensive as $1.6 million house, which here is a mega mansion. We spent about $440,000 rehabbing that one. Don't really like to do those. Right now, our average rehab on a fix and flip, on a full rehab, is a little bit over $100,000. On a lighter rehab, which we call maybe more of a wholesale, we're spending 30 to 40 right now, and that's actually proven to be very profitable too. So we can definitely talk more about that.
Yeah, and I know that's doing some math there. You're probably 25-30 million a year just in rehab costs, and that's a massive operation to pull that off. So let me ask you kind of a question, because there's I've done tons of shows. There's obviously a lot of investors out there. There's a lot of folks, especially newer investors, or when they're getting started, they focus more on wholesaling. And, talk a little bit about why you guys rehab so much, because you could wholesale some of those as well. Obviously, I know that a lot of your business is providing turnkey properties to investors. So, a lot of those folks, like, wholesaling to them is not turnkey. They have to go do all the work, right? But tell us a
Sure.
little bit about the kind of case for being such a heavy rehabber versus other exit strategies.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest reason that we would keep a house is ultimately we're going to generate more profit for the business that way.
Yeah.
But that comes with, the requirement of being able to actually rehab it. So for a new investor, I do think wholesaling is a nice way to get started. I think it just depends what their ultimate goals are. If their goal is to grow into a bigger business that is going to want and need bigger profits, being able to rehab and then deliver and maximize on that profit is the way to go. As a case study, we do buy a lot of properties from other wholesalers, and we end up paying assignment fees, as small as $1,000, as high as $30,000, or somewhere in between. And ultimately, if we were that original buyer, that's added profit to us. So I'm okay if another investor makes $20,000 selling us a house, and then we turn around, rehab it, do the value add, and we're making an average of $25,000 to $30,000 per property. If we had bought that same property from the seller, that profit number is now approaching $50,000.
Right.
So pretty big motivation to have a construction team in place and be able to rehab those, especially the larger scale that we go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of newer investors, their hang up is, money is one, right? Like access to money, which really isn't that hard to find, certainly these days after you have a proven business model. But the operation is the big piece. I mean, pulling that off is no easy feat. So let's talk about, like, what does a team structure look like to be able to pull off 200 plus rehabs a year?
Yeah, and again, you're not trying to get to 200 immediately. It took us years.
Oh yeah, nobody's going to start this way, right?
So when we started, we had one person. We had one project manager, is what we call them. And our project manager, their responsibility is to take a house from the day we buy it to the completion of the rehab. And then when we're selling it, of course, we're going to handle some home inspection repairs.
Yeah.
So in that, they're going to develop and set a rehab budget, which, again, especially the smaller you are, we're intimately involved in every budget. At our current scale, I'm not even looking at a budget unless there's a substantial issue. We now have the structure in place with other people that'll take care of that. But when you're just starting out, it's really just one guy that hopefully has renovation experience already. Some of our best project managers, one worked for Lowe's at many years and was in there, I forget what, he was like in the sales, kind of contractor side of that business.
Yeah.
Another guy ran a kitchen business for many years, so he was incredibly familiar with the ins and outs. Another guy came from an insurance restoration company. So we're looking for people, they don't have to necessarily have rehabbed homes, but they're in this kind of general field. They know what they're talking about. From there, as you grow it out, you then, of course, need more and more systems in place. But I would argue it's really not that hard to get started. You just need one person. And at one person, you could rehab, depending how much you can afford to spend, you could end up doing 20 to 30 properties in a year. Our goal now, with our established systems in place, is that one project manager can deliver 40 properties in a year.
Okay.
So you can do the math on that. If you have 5 project managers, you should be able to hit 200. Now, other people involved outside of those 5 to hit that number, but one, should hit you a pretty good number.
And your project managers, is that your primary, I guess, employee, and then they're subbing it out, or they're finding a general contractor? With a project manager, are you using a general contractor, or are they going to basically a bunch of subs?
They're going to handle all subcontractors. So we do not have, like, my project manager would not go hire a contracting company who's then going to hire HVAC, electrician, plumber, et cetera.
I see.
The way we structure it is we have one sub that handles your general stuff, your framing, your drywall, your trim, your tile. We have individual subs for the trades. So we have an HVAC guy, a couple of them. We have a bunch of electricians. We have a bunch of plumbers, but there's one on each job.
Yeah.
We use one single kitchen supplier. We had really bad luck with having contractors do kitchens. So we found one rock solid kitchen company. They do all of our kitchens. And then same for our roofing. Our roofer has been with us for 8 years. He does all of our roofing, gutters, windows, and exterior trim.
Cool.
So again, a lot of that stuff, as you get into a local market, referrals is the best way to find, those subcontractors. I've heard of the old trick of, pulling up in a truck at Home Depot. I don't think that's the best way. But as soon as you find one good one, you just got to go word of mouth from there and really tap into the network.
Yeah. I've always told people you never want to be the guinea pig with your own wallet. So kind of find those.
Very true.
So, somebody else that's used them and they had a good experience, and then, let somebody else be the test case for that, I guess.
Yeah. And ask them for references and pictures of past work, and anybody that's halfway decent, they'll have those.
Right. Yeah. They're proud of it. So they've taken pictures of it and stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you manage, and then you have somebody, maybe it's you, that manages the project managers, because you've got, I think you said, you guys, like as of right now, you have 50 rehabs going on at any time, which is massive, right? So who's managing the project managers, like structurally?
Yeah, so for a long time, we didn't have, well, again, when we were smaller, it was pretty easy. When there's 1 or 2, even 3 project managers, at that time, the guys that we were doing flips and rentals. So the flip project managers would report directly to me, because I'm over top of acquisitions and sales. And flips can get a little bit more custom. You got to make sure the layout's right, things like that. At the same time, we were building our own rental portfolio. We had project managers doing rental rehabs, which are much more straightforward and less custom. They reported to our rental guy at that time. Now, as we've evolved, and now we have 5 project managers out in the field, they report directly to Jeff, who's our director of construction. So we have a director over the 5 project managers. They also share an admin person who helps keep everything organized. And then above Jeff is our COO, Andrew, who's in charge of all operations. Okay. So nobody answers directly to me anymore. I do frequently have interactions with the team, but the structure is from project manager to director of construction to COO.
I see.
And then we do also have a separate accounting team that is going to keep track of invoices and billing that comes through. Yeah. But at the end, our project managers are responsible for their own budgets. That's part of how they get bonused. It's a factor of their bonus. So they're going to be very aware of it, and they should be very aware of it. Yeah, for sure. Making sure that things are being spent the right way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys, as you've said several times, you didn't start there. Obviously, you started with one house and one guy, right? But let's talk about maybe just some high-level pitfalls and lessons learned, because you don't get there, and I know how this works, without a bunch of arrow wounds in your back, as I like to say. So maybe you could share a few like key lessons learned that other people could benefit from just by your experience of it versus them necessarily having to go through it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we could write a book on this, but I mean, some of the really big ones that
a real big book
out.
Right? Like, yeah.
Oh man, especially when you start telling stories. But one of the biggest, most basic things is you got to protect yourself. So you're never going to pay ahead. So what does that mean? That means if a contractor says to you, the job is $10,000 in labor, and they want $5,000 up front or anything up front at all, the answer is no. So you need to have a set draw schedule, and they can get money really quickly. So off the top of my head, on a $10,000 contract, we might have 4 or 5 draws. The quickest and easiest one that they can get to within a week is demo and framing. That's easy. Now, again, that's not $5,000 worth of work. That might be $2,000 or $2,500, but they're not going to get paid again on their next draw until they're through. You have to agree on what it is, but let's say drywall, paint, and trim are done. Right. They can get paid another draw. So the bottom line is, let's say it's a halfway point of the job, we have to fire the contractor and hire another one. We better have enough money left over in the budget to pay the new contractor. Yeah. We used to, in the old days, we had a lot of issues with this because it can be hard to tell people, no, you're not getting paid. But when you have a written contract and it's very clear what's required in each draw, there should be no questions. There should be no stories. Because again, you got to look out for yourself. Yeah. You're going to be fair, but you got to protect yourself.
Yeah. One of the things that I found, and you guys benefit from this now, is you're very important to a lot of people, right? And so the tough part is if you're starting in rehabbing and you're doing just a couple deals here and there, they clearly have all sorts of other jobs. They're out looking for new work all the time. Once you become important to somebody and they know they're going to get paid like clockwork, there's an element of trust there. And an element of
Yep.
respect, like I respect your process and I'm not going to let you down because I want to get the next job, right?
Yeah, and that goes for you too. So as much as you're going to hold that contractor to the standards, you darn well better too. So we pay weekly. If
Yeah.
you have your invoice in by, I think it's Tuesday, I forget the time, but if your invoice is in by Tuesday, your check gets cut on Friday.
Yeah.
So we're going to uphold our end of the bargain. We're going to pay right away. You know, we're never going to play games or switch and bait anybody. We're going to be fair, and guys know when they work with us, they're getting paid. And not only that, we have more work. So
Yeah.
that's a big value add. Just like anything else, you need to be honest and respectful to people. If you do that, the contractors are going to respect you back.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, you know, most contractors, a lot of certainly, you know, not necessarily younger, but newer, I guess, in the business or whatever, they're spending half their time looking for the next job. So if they can eliminate having to look for work, they can make more money because they're staying busier, right?
Yeah. So another thing I would say people need to be careful and be aware of, especially as you're getting started, is I'll say one would be don't bite off. What's the saying? Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
I have a horror story. I'll share some of the details of it. I bought a house from a guy. It appeared to be a somewhat solid stone rancher. And then I walked through the house and discovered that coming from the roof was about a hole that was about 6 feet in diameter. It had been open for probably 15 years. And every time it rained, it literally then dissolved through to the basement.
Mm.
So whether or not it could have been saved, we decided to get creative with it. And we said, okay, well, let's tear the rancher down to the foundation, and then we'll build it back up as a 2-story colonial. That was it. We tore it down. And 2 years later, we finally sold it as an empty lot, and we lost our butts on it.
Oh, wow.
So I could tell you so many things. We had to go to the petition for a variance. The variance got denied. We had attorneys, engineers, architects. I mean, everybody got paid on this thing except for us. And we couldn't figure out how to rebuild a house. And the foundation went bad because it was left exposed for too long. I mean, it was just a myriad of mistakes and disasters. So
yeah.
If you're going to rehab, stick to rehabbing. Don't try to build something. If you're a construction guy, you better have good people in place to figure out how to rehab. So yeah, I mean, unless you are at a scale that you can do numerous things, stick with one or two. If you're wholesaling now when you want to rehab, it's fine to start a rehab, but don't do a rehab that you're going to build an addition on. Like it's really complicated. So stick with the rehab stuff and grow to the other stuff.
And you know what? That's good timing for a tip like that, because what I found is a lot of people, when the market is as hot as it is, they justify sometimes overpaying for a deal because they're going to create some value by doing an add-on or something else. And so, you know, I guess your kind of lesson there is don't throw good money at a bad deal.
Yeah, that's also a really good way of saying it.
Yeah, don't double down. This isn't the type of business. I mean, you know, just move on to you gotta like live to fight another day in this business, right? So don't go all in on one.
Right. And don't overcomplicate it. We as people that are business-minded entrepreneurs, we can get really creative and have these cool ideas. But you don't always have to do that. I mean, yes, it might be really cool to blow that wall out and open up the back of the house, and then you're going to have this massive kitchen, and it's going to be awesome. But you might have a setback issue. You might create a structural issue. It could take 8 months to get the permits. Like, if you could just rehab the house in a month or two and sell it 30 days later and make 40 grand, why do all the extra work to make an extra 10 grand or potentially the same money?
Right.
So sometimes you got to go the simpler route, especially when the market's hot and there's a shortage of houses. Now's a great time to be selling a house, not doing something crazy. Right.
So in terms of kind of where the market's going, I won't ask you to get out your crystal ball because I don't think any of us have any idea where it's going. But how do you, when you're heavy on the rehab side, you probably have more risk at a market downturn or a shift, right? And so sometimes people start to move to just faster cycle time exit strategies like wholesaling or assigning, right? And so what are some of your thoughts on how you guys think about this? You're very heavy in the rehab space, and you know, you guys are smart guys. I know that. So it's not like you're not aware that the market could shift the market doesn't typically shift that fast. But what are your thoughts on, how to kind of prepare for a shift in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think speed is really important. So even if we're not wholesaling, our goal is to be in and out of every house within about 11 weeks at the most. So in that time frame, that should be a short enough time frame. Like you said, the market typically doesn't change that fast. But speaking about turnkeys, these are relatively lower price points. So a 180 house, if it goes to 170 value, that's painful and not ideal, but it's not going to break the bank.
Right.
If you're rehabbing substantially more expensive houses and you're projecting a 1.2 value and you end up at $1 million, that's going to hurt a lot more, to say the least.
Yeah.
So that's speed is everything, and you just got to pay attention and feel and look at what the market is doing. I have the blessing that my partner was investing through the 2008 crash. He started in 2004. He never stopped in 2008. And his point was, we just rode the wave. When things started going down, we kept buying homes, but instead of buying them here, we were buying them that much lower. The market never stopped. You just had to price them and the houses right.
Right.
People definitely got stuck upside down, but fortunately they didn't have that problem because they were quick. Again, if you're holding a house for a year, it may or may not work out for you, but if it's a 3-month span in and out, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That wisdom of being through market cycles helps, and obviously the wisdom of being around a lot. You guys are members of Investor Fuel, and just the collaboration of everybody sharing ideas in a group like ours it helps everyone, right? That people can learn from you guys and you guys learn from others. And so you guys have been in Investor Fuel for a while now. I think you guys technically joined right before COVID hit, maybe.
Right.
Would you mind kind of sharing your experience of just being members of the group? Maybe just a quick testimonial.
Yeah, and I'll also add that in the beginning, I was actually not out of the 3 partners of the business, I really wasn't in the meetings in the beginning. So my Investor Fuel ramp up has come a little bit later. Okay. So I have grown to love it more and more as the deeper I've gotten involved. And not to get too personal, but as I continue to grow in the business and increase my equity position, to me, Investor Fuel is actually a key part of my strategy, moving forward for the next 5 or 10 years, because I and the business need to stay in sync with what's happening, from little things to big things. So big things like, what's happening in the market, and little things like, hey, this is not really working anymore for this type of lead source. What's working for you guys? And I think it's a great way to stay up to date on, the cutting edge side of the business. The guys in the group they're just crushing it. So who better to hang out with and talk to and learn from and get information from than the people that are already the best in the business.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a secret weapon.
Yeah, it's been really rewarding. There's probably some tangible monetary reward to it, but it also creates another level of accountability for us too, which I really welcome that, and I think it's great.
Yeah. Awesome, my friend. I appreciate that. So if folks wanted to reach out to you guys or connect with you, you guys obviously do a lot of deals in and around the Baltimore area. So obviously if anybody has deals in that area, they can reach out to you. But how would folks connect with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is one easy way. It's crofmaryland.com. Don't forget the of, or just Google CR of Maryland. We should be one of the first results, hopefully. You can also email me directly anytime. It's alexander@crofmaryland.com. That's another easy way. I'm also on Facebook, although I'm really bad at Facebook Messenger, so probably don't send me a message there. Our company has an Instagram. It's CR of Maryland Homes, so you can find us there too. But any of the above ways are fine.
Cool. We'll add some of the links down in the show notes. So, hey, Xander, thanks for spending some time with us today, and congrats on your success. I know it's come at a toll of a lot of effort, a lot of work, and failing forward and all that stuff, which is just how this works. So appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Awesome, man. Appreciate everything, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks at Investor Fuel.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Everybody, hey, thanks for joining us today. These guys are beasts on the rehabbing side. If you are rehabbing or you're thinking about getting into rehabbing, or you're already a massive player, hopefully you got some value from this today. If you haven't yet checked out Investor Fuel, you can go to investorfuel.com to learn more about our group. We're actually meeting here very shortly, but we're really a community 365 days a year. So encourage you to check it out. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next show. Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.